Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to start cleaning up the push rod that I roughed out in the last video. This piece is the foundation of the entire log. It drives the entire mechanism, and because of that I'm going to be building the entire log around this piece. So the first thing that I need to do is take a really good look at where I am right now. First of all, this is the next day, so I'm looking at it with fresh eyes. The forging is done, but I do need to do a little bit of forging to clean everything up. So I'm going to go around with a pair of calipers and a straight edge and basically just take a really good look and examine and take stock of what needs to be straightened up, what needs to be lined up, and what corners need to be tweaked a little bit and so on. And once I get a good idea of where I'm going, then I'm going to light the forge up and start working on getting everything straight so that I can do the actual finishing, which is to file everything down to a nice square edge and a smooth finish. So I've identified a few areas that I need to correct and straighten up, and before I even light the forge, I'm going to take a few minutes at the vise and really get a good idea of how I'm going to approach all of these problems. And here's an example of one of the problems that I need to deal with. I need to work on this outside corner, but the vise isn't grabbing onto it. You can see how it's moving. Here I have a piece of paper folded in four, and you can see how much room there is there. Since I'm not going to be able to use the vise jaws to isolate this leg the way that I want, I need to bring in a little outside help. This is a 5-pound hammer, and I'm going to use it to back up the corner while I drive it back to square it up. So the first thing I'm going to be doing today is just systematically going around this entire forging and making sure that the corners are nice and square and all the legs and the faces are straight. You can see a bit of steam coming off the piece because I've cooled the outer leg to concentrate the heat right into the corner. I'm also using very low heats for this part of the process because I'm not doing any heavy forging. I'm just trying to tweak the shape and get everything lined up. And you can see how this one heat really refined the shape of this leg. What I'm looking at is the cross section of the leg, and I'm projecting that thickness into the corner. It started out having a rounded corner like the leg on the left-hand side, but I've repositioned the material so that if I remove that bump that's on the inside edge of that corner, I'm going to be left with a nice sharp, crisp corner. Another problem that I found when I was examining the piece earlier was that this leg was slightly longer than the other side, so I'm going to drive this material back to shorten that leg slightly. And what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the leg with a pair of tongs so I can control it while I'm driving the material back. And the final step is to take it back to the anvil and try to straighten it out as much as you can. Because the more imperfections you can hammer out at this stage is going to turn into a lot less filing time later on. But you also have to be careful. Too much hammering can thin out an area too much, so you don't have enough material to file a smooth surface. So I prefer to leave it a little bit on the heavy side. Here I've just quickly taken a flap wheel to the surface so that you can clearly see all of the edges. It's still really rough, but the shape is in there. And here I've superimposed some squares on this photo so you can see what I'm looking at and that I do indeed have enough material to get this shape out. And from this point on, the process isn't too mysterious at all. I'm just slowly and methodically filing my way down to that imaginary line until I get that nice, clean, rectangular shape out of this lumpy mess. When you're working on something like this, it's important not to work on one face too long or to try to remove too much material at once. The best way to go about it is to file a little bit, take it out of the vise, have a look at it, put it back, work on a different face, slowly work your way into that shape. Taking frequent breaks not only gives your hands a rest, it allows you to examine the piece and to really focus on the work that you're doing. So if you file a little bit and then assess how that's progressing, you're going to be able to quickly develop a mental picture of how much material you're removing, even though you can't actually see what you're doing because the file's in the way. And by doing that, you're going to find that it's a lot easier to produce accurate work, because if you're filing in one direction all the time, you can assume that you're filing a flat surface. That's really true, but in reality it could have quite an angle on it, and you're not going to see that until you take it out of the vise and turn it around and look at it from a different perspective. And being able to catch those problems early on is going to give you the ability to correct those problems without filing the piece too thin and then having to rebuild the whole thing. So here's what the piece looks like now after about roughly an hour of 16th century machining. There's still a long way to go, but at least now I know that I have a piece that I can use. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. If you're interested in supporting this channel, the simplest way, of course, is to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have questions and you want to contact me directly, you can do so by emailing me at either one of the addresses that I have listed here. It may take me a couple of days, but I will get back to you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.